excited to have you because people like to watch the replay or they might not be able to attend. I'm so excited to have you about the very, very important topic that most people don't connect with dating. And sorry, did you hear any of that? Probably not. Okay, welcome. I'll do it again. Welcome to our webinar tonight about your inner child and how does it hijack you with dating? And I'm so excited to have this topic tonight because it is being recorded because people will miss it and then they will want to come on and watch it because they can't be here. And most people don't associate this topic with dating. Like you hear a lot, if people have done a lot of work on themselves, inner work, personal work, therapy, any of that stuff, that you hear a lot about the inner child, but people don't connect it with dating. You go to a dating coach. Dating coaches are wonderful. I love them. I've teamed up with Eliza Ben Shalom. We're doing a lot of work together. And she just recently, we did a live and she called me her secret weapon because dating coaches classically don't do this stuff. Dating coaches give you great advice about the dating and about what to do and about how you should do it and really good strategy that's all accurate and correct and amazing, but they don't realize, and what people I think don't realize, and even the people who are dating themselves, you know, when I was dating, I didn't realize that how you show up and all the belief systems you show up with and the subconscious feelings that you're showing up with and your judgment about yourself and about what's going on and how you really feel deep down, all of that is much more important than a lot of the advice given. Well, I should just say it's equally important, if not more, because you can do all that right advice about dating and it still just doesn't happen. And people come to me all the time and say, I'm just dating and dating. I'm doing all the right things and it's just not happening. It's just not happening. Don't know why. Now, I do want to make a very important caveat, which is that we don't know why. Everyone likes to play God, me included, but we don't know why. We don't know why things happen. We don't know why, because we're in the middle of a process. We're in the unknown. We don't have the full picture. So anyone who tries to pretend that they know why something's happening to someone else, run away as fast as you can from that person because we're not God. We don't know the full picture. Could it be just it's not the right time and there's nothing else you need to work on? It could be. So we can't jump to the assumption that there's something wrong with me intrinsically. So therefore, that's why I'm single. On some level, I'm not good enough. I'm not whole enough. I'm not well enough. I'm not healed enough, right? We can't jump to that assumption. We cannot. The proof of that, by the way, is, have you seen how many people are married that are completely dysfunctional? Completely dysfunctional. There are tons and tons and tons of very, very dysfunctional, lovely, beautiful, wonderful people who are married. And so it cannot be that that's the prerequisite. Okay. So having said that caveat, and I say that caveat a lot of the time. So if you've been on any of my webinars, you will know that I say that a lot because it is the truth. It is the truth that we don't know. However, we do know that the purpose of us being on the planet is to become our full self and our best self. We do know that for everyone, no matter what stage of life you're in, right? We do know that God loves us and wants us to become our whole self, complete self and full self. And he'll do whatever it takes by design. That's perfect for us. He'll do whatever it takes to help us grow and transform to become the person we really deeply want to be. He will do that. For some people, that is going through a period of time of being single more or longer than they want to be. Hello, that was me. Like for many, 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 many years, probably way longer than most of you here. Okay, decades. I got married in my 40s. So I kind of feel like I have license to say whatever I want, right? Because I went through absolute hell. So hell is not a bad word in Australian. So I apologize for any Americans who are sensitive to that word. But I went through so much in my singledom that I had to really deep dive into this issue, right? Is there something wrong with me? Do I not trust God? Like what's going on? And what I found is really why I want to do this topic tonight, which is the idea that it's who you are and how you show up on the dates that affects the dating and the impact and the whether you can find your husband or he can find you much, much, much more than anything else, than any other practical advice or going to this event or that event. That is all the stuff we need to do. You must do that. If you sit at home on your couch watching Netflix all the time, you will not find your soulmate. You will not. So you have to get out there. But it's far more impactful how you show up on a date. And no one is on those dates except you and that date. That's the key. No one is on those dates except you and the date. Not any friend, not any mentor, not any rabbi or rebbitzin, not any dating coach. We're not there. We can't see. I always say, I wish you could have like a little date cam and you go along on the date, you get there 10 minutes before your date and like you put it on the wall so I can like spy in and give you feedback. Like I'm tempted to do it because that really will give you feedback. And sometimes you don't even know yourself because you're the one on the date and you're subjective. You got blind spots. You're subjective. You think you're focusing on what he's saying. You're not focusing on what you're looking like, so to speak. And so you want to be able to do that work yourself. And that's why it's so important to do this inner work. It's so important to do it because if you've been dating a while and if you've been waiting a while and you, one second, and you, it's not happening and you're doing everything else right. So then you need to do this work. It is my belief, my personal belief that you're obligated to do this work. You're obligated to do the deeper work so that you can show God yourself, I'm open, I'm available, I'm ready, I'm present, I'm authentic, I'm grounded, I'm able to be vulnerable. These are all the things we need. We must have all these things to be able to date effectively. And what gets in the way of that? What gets in the way of you, me, everyone showing up to any relationship, but particularly dating because it's more vulnerable? Being grounded, open, secure, confident, trusting yourself, have clarity. What gets in the way of that? All your childhood stuff. Even if you're from the most loving family, guess what? You have childhood stuff. Sorry to break the bubble. Even if you're, and I know there's this whole pressure in the Jewish observant world, at least, like everyone's got to be perfect families and let's project the perfect image and we all love each other. And even if you do, and it's all wonderful and you have a wonderful family, we don't get out of what we call tikkun. We don't get out of it. Your tikkun, which is your soul correction. Your soul correction is what you're here on the planet to work on, to become your best self. Everyone has one. Everyone has something they're here to work on. Otherwise you wouldn't be on the planet, right? That's separate to your life purpose, which is your tough kid, which is what do I give back in the world? We'll do another webinar on that later. But right now we're talking about tikkun, the things I have to work on in myself. Yeah. And when I'm working on those things will show up in my life over and over again as patterns. So the first thing I say to people when they come and work with me, or when I have just like an introductory call, which hopefully I will with a bunch of you, I'll say, what are your patterns? What are your patterns in dating? And if you don't know, that's where you start. You start looking at what are your patterns. Do I get no dates typically? Just no dates coming in. There's no good guys out there. No, because the next person your age is getting good guys. So what is it going on that's getting in your way? There are good guys out there and you only need one. You don't need 50. You need a couple of good guys to date, get some clarity, and then find, you don't need lots and lots of hundreds of good guys. So there's no good guys out there. So is that a pattern for you? Is it that you meet guys, but they're totally not in your ballpark? I'm speaking mainly to women. I don't know if there's guys on here. Sorry, guys, if you're on here. It's usually predominantly women's thing, but you're welcome if you're here. Is it that you're not finding guys that are in your ballpark? Right? So if that's the case, and that's your pattern, what's going on there? How are you getting in your way? If you're finding guys who are not aligned with you, one of the questions you can ask yourself, how am I not aligned with myself? What am I doing that might betray myself, that disowns myself? I don't like part of myself. I want to reject myself. So I keep getting guys that are also rejecting of me or not aligned with me, right? There's a mirror here. The Talmud says we don't see things the way they are. We see it the way we are. We have a lens. We look out. We think it's about the world out there, but guess what? It's about the world in here. The inner child is the part of you that needs to be healed and integrated into your full, bigger whole self. It is part of your tikkun. Your tikkun is your soul correction. So everyone has to do this work. And guess what? I hate to break your bubble, but if you don't do it now, and when you're single, it'll show up in marriage anyway, and you have to do it there anyway. It'll just show up. And guess what? I was just talking to someone today who's on her third marriage. And I said, I hate to break it to you also, but generally whatever your tikkun was in your first marriage, the theme follows you into the second and even the third. God forbid, we don't all want to be married 3 times. We don't have to be, right? But I'm saying you can't outrun your tikkun. You can't get out of it thinking, oh, it's this guy, and then I'm going to now leave this guy and have a fantastic, perfect relationship with someone else. No. The same issue might arise. It might be a better circumstance. It might be easier. It's starting afresh and without all the history. So it might be easier, but the tikkun is the same for your personal tikkun. And where does that start? It starts in childhood. It starts in childhood. Hashem places you, us, all of us, in the families that we need to, don't hate me for this, but to build the right opportunities that we need in a positive way. Right? All the strengths, all the love, all the good stuff's there that we need. And even the lacks, even whatever it is you lacked on, whatever level you lacked it, which is every single person in this room, because no one has perfect parents. And your parents, God bless them, gave you everything usually that they had, and they can only give you what they had. Their parents can only give us what they have. And they got that from their parents, who got that from their parents. And if you're like me and you have, my dad's a Holocaust survivor, but if you have within 2-3 generations, people who were surviving the war and leaving countries and trauma, there's limitations there that are understandable and natural and valid. So people can only give you what they have, even if they love you with everything they've got. And it's not a betrayal to them to acknowledge that it had a certain impact on me, even though we all love each other and we're tight. And even if you're not, all the more so if you're not, right? I need to own what is part of my tikkun. And God put you in a family with the strengths and the lacks so that you would even have the certain struggles that you have, so that you could overcome them, become more whole. And that's part of building your potential this lifetime. Okay. So that's the backdrop, I guess, from where where I'm coming from today. And I just want to, I guess, start with that it's important to see this with this in mind. And this real webinar is about then how do I let go of fear, which is really one of the biggest blocks I see for dating. That the inner child part of us that got hurt, that didn't feel fully unconditionally loved and accepted, that felt somehow rejected, but maybe it could be from school too. These are about our formative years and the belief systems and deeper feelings that we develop in those deeper years, right? So this is what this is. And this webinar is really for people who want to change their dating patterns, do all the right things, and it's just not happening, like I mentioned before. It's for people who want a higher quality of relationships. So sometimes a pattern is I can date someone and it's like 1 and done, or 2 and done, or 3. And I never get past date 2 or 3. It just is like, I meet good guys. They're great guys, but I just don't get past date 2 or 3. So this is for people who want to go deeper than that, right? Or maybe you just feel stuck. Maybe you just feel depressed or hopeless, like it's never going to happen for me. This is what this is for, because all of that needs to be changed, and it can be changed. That's the good news. Once you start owning it and not beating yourself up for it, really important, then it starts to change. So do you find it hard to go past the first couple of dates? Do you find it hard to get any dates? Do you find it hard to date good to great guys, right? Like that I get dates, but they're not fantastic guys that for you, right? They're not the right match. This is what this webinar is for you. Okay. So how do you know you have issues relating to your inner child? How do you know that? You might be aware, if you have done some inner work and personal reflection, you might be aware that there is maybe a fear of vulnerability. Let's say you go on dates and you're kind of guarded all the time. So that could also be a sign of your inner child issue, right? Maybe I need validation. I care way too much what others think. And I know I do. I get a lot of people with that self-awareness, right? I care too much what everyone else thinks. I go and ask everyone after my dates. I don't really trust myself, or I need their validation. I need to feel good. I only feel good in myself if I get their validation, right? Or I self-sabotage. When something's going really well, I'll mess it up. And then I go, I can't believe I did that again. I can't believe I did that. Why did I do that again? Like I spoke without thinking, or I offended someone, or I just stayed quiet and self-sabotage, like whatever it is, like what's your pattern? Don't be scared of your patterns, because they're the things we're going to heal. Self-sabotage, by the way, sorry, not self-sabotage. The feeling that you get where you say you self-sabotage and you say, I can't believe I did that again. The Gemara actually says that is a hint to your tikkun. That is one of the hints to your tikkun, that you keep accidentally making the same mistakes, going, oh, I can't believe I did that again. I can't believe I'm in the same relationship again. I can't believe I have to deal with this again. Yes, that's a sign. That's clarity that you have to fix this. This is what you're here to fix. You have a much greater chance of fixing something or healing something if you know what it is you have to heal. So rather than beat yourself up for the things that you see, we want to be able to say, wow, this is what I have to heal. Great. I have clarity. How do I do that? Okay. That's the next step. Insecurity. Do you have any insecurity dating? Do you feel like somehow you pedestal your dates if you like them? right? Or do you feel anxious before you go on dates? These are all signs of this is inner child stuff. This is not coming from your higher self. Your higher self is like your soul level. Your inner child is your lower self. So we have a higher self and lower self, two different selves. They are intertwined together and they separate at death, right? The soul and the body. The inner child lives on the body level. It's young. It's tied into the subconscious, right? But it expresses through the body. So I feel insecurity. That's from my inner child. I have difficulty with conflict and speaking up, right? So let's say something happens on a date and I don't feel comfortable with it, but I will not speak up. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be a burden. I'm a people pleaser. Everything's great until it's not. And then that you're not really home. You're not really there. So he doesn't get to know you. So what does he do? He rejects you because he doesn't really feel you. He's a nice lady, but I didn't feel a connection. That sound familiar? So that's because often you're not showing up. You're not there. You're doing everything to people please, or perfectionism. I'm great. I have no needs, right? So men don't want that. Men want a woman who has needs and they can be their hero. So that means you have to be vulnerable with the real needs and not be authentic. It's a very interesting idea, right? We think that if we project this perfect image or project this image of like, everything's great, I'm all smiley all the time, right? I call it the Baruch Hashem syndrome. Baruch Hashem, everything's great. My house is on fire, Baruch Hashem, right? No, that's called fake. That's called suppression, repression. It's not real. You can't create bonds and connection that way. If you have repeating patterns, as we talked about, if you have a lack of boundaries, right? You don't want to say no, you're always available, or you always want to say yes, just regardless, because you don't want to make them upset. All of these things come from where did you learn these things? You learned them as a kid. As a kid, it wasn't useful to set a boundary. As a kid, it wasn't useful to speak up. It wasn't heard. It wasn't responded to. You were judged. You were shamed. Feelings were meaningless. Feelings were silly, whatever it was, right? Again, and this is not that anyone did this intentionally to you necessarily. It's just how they operate. So that's what you picked up. And these are the patterns operating at our deeper self. Okay, what is your inner child? It's part of your subconscious. Your inner child is a part of your subconscious that formed as a kid, right? It remembers things that your conscious mind doesn't. So the conscious mind is the part of the mind we're aware of. I'm going to show you a thing in a minute. And the subconscious is the part of our brain. It's like a back filing cabinet, and it stores up all of our experiences that we've had. Yeah, that we don't remember anymore. It's an amazing ability that we have, that we were given as a gift, that if things were too overwhelming or too much as a kid, we just stored them in the back filing cabinet and we could deal with them later, meaning now in your life, when you've got the capacity to deal with it. I've just been reminded that anyone who stays to the end of this webinar, there is a special bonus for you guys. So if you stick with me till the end, stay tuned. There will be a bonus of only people live on the webinar will get it. Sorry if you're listening to the recording, I apologize. But if you stay till the end, anyone live on the call will get a special bonus of a guide how to speak to their inner child. So stay tuned. And I have a staff member on here who's going to capture everyone who's here at the end. So strengths of your inner child include spontaneity. Like the inner child is a good thing, by the way. I don't want to say it's all bad and wounded and whatever. The inner child is that part of our subconscious that is young and has the ability to have fun and be playful and feel light. And it's good for flirting, right? Flirting is playful. Flirting is fun. So if you don't have access to that childlike part of you in a positive way, it's hard to do that. If you're always really serious and like heavy, you can't access that part of you. So we want the inner child. We want you to stay in touch with an inner child, particularly when you become parents also, or maybe you have nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever. You want to jump on the floor with them and play. You want to be able to get in touch with that part of you so you can connect with them as well, right? There's a lot of strengths in the inner child. However, the weaknesses are that it's easily wounded, right? It gets triggered, right? It's the part of us that's triggered all the time, and it operates from limiting beliefs that picked up when it was a child, right? That often are either painful or they just keep us limited. They're small. They're very small because we were small once upon a time, and we didn't want to deal with it, or we couldn't deal with whatever was going on. So we just put it in the back filing cabinet, the subconscious. And the goal is to integrate the pain and the wounds while still being able to access the positive aspects. So you can absolutely integrate any of the pain that came with childhood, or any of the wounds or the limiting beliefs or the worries or the concerns or the fears, right? Fear of being hurt, fear of being rejected, fear of failure. These are very common ones. Fear of making the wrong decision, right? Essentially, and be able to stay in touch with the positive side, which is fun and playfulness and light and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is very important. Okay. This is the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And it is, if you look at the top of the triangle, it is the conscious mind, as you see here, is a tiny little triangle. It's a tiny little triangle. It's the conscious mind is what we're aware of and what we want people to know about us. And it only makes up 20% of our actions and reactions, right? It only makes up 20%. That means the subconscious is 80% underneath. 80% of the of our reactions and responses in life, especially the knee-jerk ones, right? Where you just have a reaction from the subconscious. The subconscious is the part of the brain where other things like dreams come out of, right? Doesn't make sense. It's more abstract, symbolic. Meditation, hypnosis accesses the subconscious. When we daydream, you know, when you're sitting out and looking out the window and your kind of mind is just wandering, it comes also, you can access the subconscious. When you have a knee-jerk reaction, it's from the subconscious, and it's very right brain. So these are the way our brain is made up: left brain and right brain. And it sits at the feeling level, the subconscious, right? It's not influenced by your conscious mind at all, or reasoning or logic. And this is the biggest thing I see, is that there's an inner conflict. Consciously, you want to get married. I'm open. I'm ready. I want to get married. It's so painful not to be married. Subconsciously, there's part of me that's scared. Subconsciously, there's part of me that's like worried I'm going to make the wrong decision. Subconsciously, I don't really believe that someone's just going to love me for who I am. Subconsciously, I just have this deeper fear that I don't have what it takes. I'm going to mess it up, or it happens to everyone else, right? This is how the subconscious and the conscious work. And the more you become conscious of your subconscious, see this line here, the more this line moves down into the subconscious, and there's these purple things, let's say these purple things are meaningful experiences and belief systems we have, they bubble up to the conscious mind, and you go, oh, I have that belief system. Oh, I just realized something. They're those aha moments. And as this line moves down here, your consciousness level becomes much bigger. So you become much more conscious, right? We want to be more aware of who we are. This is an area I feel in the Jewish world is not really touched. It's an area that's assumed that everyone's there, and now we can talk about serving God and doing kindness to others and all of that kind of. No, this has been Adam la'atzmo, between me and myself. And I have to work on this because it makes me more of an open vessel to receive, and it makes me more of an open vessel to connect with others and with God, especially who I'm dating. So you must do this work. It's the inner work that's the least done, in my opinion. Yeah. So I want to tell you about an example. I had a client once. She was went to a school, and you know, girls can be brutal at school. And so when she was in the first year of high school, she got sort of kicked out of a school group, a group of friends, and she desperately wanted to be part of this group of friends, and she didn't really have other friends, and she was left for about, I don't know, up to a year, 9 or 10 months, where she really didn't have any friends. And this group were a bit mean to her. They teased her a little, whatever. She's a little bit different, had an accent, and she felt really isolated and really alone. And what do you think some of the loving family, everything else was good, but what do you think some of the beliefs she took away was? I'm different. I'm not like everyone else. I can't have what everyone else has. Everyone else is happy and connected. I'm not. That was her takeaway as a kid, just seeing the situation. I feel bad. I'm left out. I don't know why. I must be bad. I must not be good enough. That was her belief. And now she's dating. She's in her 30s. Everyone else, her friends are all married. And she has a belief everyone else can get married. I can't, even though she knows logically it doesn't make sense. But you can't help it. It's a feeling underneath. The feeling, it sits at the feeling level. It's an inner child belief system that the conscious mind can't argue with. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So when she came to me, we got clarity around this belief. She wasn't even completely clear on this belief or this feeling, right? And when she started working on that and did some of the inner child techniques that we're going to talk about tonight, she shifted that. She was able to connect with the part of her that she was not aware of. And once she turned towards that part of her and she connected, even though it wasn't healed, it's not like, oh, magic, quick fix, right? It doesn't work like that. It's a process. But once she saw it, connected with it, and understood that it's just a part of her and she doesn't need to let it overtake her, and she can love it and connect with it herself. So guess what happened? It shifted completely, and it no longer hijacked her dating. And she met her husband within, I'd say, 4 to 5 months of working with me. So, and she attributed it totally to that shift, right? We would not have happened otherwise, because she felt worthy. She really felt worthy. So a question you can ask yourself is, are you the kind of woman that the man of your dreams would want to marry? Do you feel like you are there? Like, think of the man that you really want to marry. And do you feel compatible or worthy with that? Right. And if not, you want to ask yourself, what is that about? Be curious. We want to be curious, not judgmental. Okay. So the biggest challenge to letting ourselves tap in to this inner child, the biggest challenge to really going there is we block our feelings. We don't want to feel them. We block our feelings through judgment. We block our feelings through suppression and repression. Suppression is conscious, repression is unconscious, meaning suppression is, I have a feeling like sadness come up and like, oh, I don't want to feel that. I'm just going to swallow it and keep busy or focus on something else, right? So I push it down. Repression is I'm so don't want to feel anything. I'm subconsciously going to push it down. I'm not even going to know. I'm not even aware that I have the feeling. It's so pushed down that I don't know why I just get migraines all the time. I don't know why I just get irritable bowel syndrome. I don't know why I just get backaches, and like no tests or doctors or anything can fix it. And it doesn't even come back on the tests, but like I just get this agonizing pain. So if we keep repressing feelings all the time and we never let them out, which is what they want to do. They just want to come up and out and move through you. And that's all they need to do. Then they will try and find a way out through the physical ailments, right? And this is why 70% of stomach disorders presenting to doctors are psychosomatic. Not that they don't exist, but they're emotionally driven. And they do have really painful symptoms in the digestive system. I can't stomach it. That's why we say that, because the subconscious links organs with the same function. I can't stomach it. I can't digest it. It was too much for me to process. Right? Literally, that's what the stomach is. The stomach is our processor. So it's a whole different webinar I can go into around healing in the body, right? We're trained in somatic psychotherapy. Unbelievable stuff that happens between the mind and the body and how they're connected. And that when you work on both levels, the mind and the body together, it's much more powerful. But the third way we block our feelings is through escape. We escape. We don't want to feel them. I don't want to feel them. They're uncomfortable. So I'm just going to drown myself in Ben & Jerry's and watch Netflix and go shopping and eat food and have alcohol and whatever, workaholism and gyms and shopping, you name it. Like we've got so many outlets if we want to. And they become escapes that are not good for us in the long term. So these are the three things. And these three things keep you stuck. They keep you stuck. And they're not going to help you heal. They're not going to help you move. They block your tikkun. They block you becoming an open vessel. They block you being authentic. They block you connecting deeply. They block your dating. They block your clarity, because you have to access your feelings as well to get clarity on such a subjective decision as getting married. You must. Right? You cannot, it's not an intellectual decision. It has to pass through the logic first as the captain of the ship, but then you need your heart and your gut. You need head, heart, gut to make a decision like this. And it's your heart. No one else is inside of you. No one else can make this decision for you but you. And I see way too many people running around giving their power away to all sorts of people, rabbis, representatives, mentors, coaches, friends, family, to do whatever they think they should do, but it's not satisfying deep down, because no one can make that decision for you. You have to. And in order to make that decision, you have to be in touch with yourself. You have to be in tune, to have that clarity, to have that confidence, to have that self-trust. Some people don't ever have this challenge. True. Some people don't have any challenge or any specific challenge, but if this is your challenge, then this is the thing you're meant to work on. So, okay. I'm happy to take questions as well. If you want to put in the chat any questions, and then there'll be time for questions afterwards. So if you are having any burning questions, you can put it in the chat. And if you're not, you can write them down and we can ask them afterwards at the end. How do you heal this inner child? This is the $1 million question. How do you heal the inner child, right? In order to heal, there has to be 3 things that happen. 3 things that happen. And each one of these is a whole thing, right? Each one of these things is not, people just like flit it off, right? But you have to be taught how to do it. You have to be taught how to do it. And this is what I teach you in my course, because often we hear, get more self-worth, be more confident, trust yourself, listen to your gut. Yeah, what if I'm not in touch with my gut? What if my gut is masked by fear? How do I know what my gut feels? We don't know how to do it. We don't know how to connect and to do all these things. So I created a course to teach you how to do it, because there really is very little instruction out there how to do it. You know what you need to do. Most of my clients go, I've done a lot of work on myself. I know what my issues are, where they're at, where they're from, why they're there, and I can't change how I feel. right? Or I've done a lot of therapy and I get a lot of insight, had a lot of understanding, but I can't change how I feel. Why? Because the feelings exist from the subconscious under the surface. And unless you know or you've been taught how to tune in there, it's very hard to change that yourself just through logic and conscious awareness or conscious insight. So that's what I teach you how to do. So the first thing that needs to happen when you're working with your inner child, and this is the biggest mistake I see even therapists make sometimes, not all therapists, but some, you have to connect to your higher self. You cannot do the healing unless you connect to your higher self. Why? Because it's the dialogue that happens between them that is the healing. You have an adult higher self and you have the inner child, which is the younger self, and then you need a healing dialogue. So in order for all of that to happen, you need to connect to the higher self and know how to do that, which is, by the way, on its own, a game changer for dating. Because once you date from that higher self, you're no longer in your reactivity. Even if you have the wounds, you know how to hold them. So you're not letting them in the front line hijack you, right? That's the whole point, is like, you're going to change your relationship to those wounds that even while they're not healed yet, and you're working on them, they don't have to hijack what you're doing. They only hijack it because they're sitting in the dark in your unconscious and you're not looking at it. And you're like, I don't want to know, haven't in the past. I don't want to go back there. There's no point. Yes, there is a point, because they're playing out in your present and they're affecting your dating now. That's the point. So the point is to like notice what you're actually feeling at the feeling level, because that's going on right now in your body in present time. And then we're going to talk that. I don't do any digging. Someone I just met recently said, I'm scared of digging around because I had a bad experience with a coach. I said, no, we don't need to dig. Your subconscious is so smart. It will bring up whatever you need to deal with at the right time. There's an organic timing for your healing, for whatever it is you want to grow and heal. It will come up automatically, naturally. And you don't have to go digging around. We don't go digging around in the past. You don't need to know why something happened. The mind is so tricky. It thinks that if we know why something happened, we'll be able to fix it. Most of you know why. Oh, my mother when I was 5. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why. What matters is how you're responding to yourself now. That is all that matters. That's why in my course, we don't go around the room and talk about all your problems. It's the biggest waste of time, even though I respect each person. And of course, every story is valid. It doesn't help you shift. It just doesn't. To hear all the details in the narrative, you could go hours and hours and hours talking about your problems. Doesn't help you shift. How do you respond to yourself? We go right to the root. I said to Eliza on the live, I said, I'm more like a dating surgeon, right? Rather than a dating coach, because we go to the root. And she's like, I need you. And I'm like, okay, but we're going to work together because I need her, right? So we have to go to the root, and I have to teach you how to do that. First thing, to connect to the higher self. Second thing, identify the child part in your body that's playing out. How do you feel that? How do you know that that's coming from that inner child part of you? It's the underlying feeling in your body. Oh, I just get this knot in my stomach. I don't know why. Every time I go to my this particular person's house, I get this knot in my stomach. Or I forget dating. This happens all the time. Yes. So you need to talk to that knot. What is that knot telling you? The knot is trying to communicate something with you through your sensations, right? Same with whatever it is. I had a client who every time she went on a date, she felt dread in her stomach, this like dread, like the stomach was dropping out of her. And it was the weirdest feeling. She said, no matter what she said to herself, she couldn't change it. We closed her eyes. I taught her how to connect to the dread and talk to it and love it and let it be there from the higher self, right? Connect to the higher self first, then focused on the dread, and then to have a meaningful dialogue. Tell me more. I want to understand, just like a parent to a child. I love you. I'm here for you. I really want to know, right? Yeah, this is how we talk to ourselves. And the dread, all of a sudden, when she talked to that feeling in her stomach, brought up a flash of a time in school, a scene in school. And the conscious mind suddenly went, that's so stupid. Why did I think that? Why did that scene come up? That's really weird that I thought of that scene, and it has nothing to do with date. I said, stop, just stop. It has everything to do with dating. Your subconscious is making the link for you and showing you, tell me about that memory. And she said, oh, I was so silly. I was at school and I had to do this presentation in front of the class, and I did it and I forgot my line. I forgot what I was saying. And I literally did the bunny in the headlights thing, and everyone was laughing at me and I went bright red and it was so bad. I died. I ran out of the classroom. Oh, so every time you go to show up to something that's important to you and you want to be accepted, your subconscious aligns it somehow enough that it's similar enough to that situation that you feel the level of dread. She goes, yeah, it was the same feeling I had. I had this dread before I stood up to do the talk. And then when I did the talk, it was a disaster. So every time I'm put in front of someone that I need to impress, I feel this dread. And she goes, actually, come to think of it, I get it at job interviews too. It's so weird. I never thought of it. And all of a sudden, ding, 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 ding. And these connections happened that the subconscious was showing her because we allowed the stomach to talk. The stomach, the dread in the stomach, I'd like to know more. And boom, it put a picture in your head. Or boom, you'll have a memory, like you'll think of an example, or you'll think of an age that you were, or it will show you in some way. And then we went back to the scene in the school and we healed that scene. We had a healing dialogue with the I think she was 12 in the school. And we went back and told imagine a 12-year-old who gets really embarrassed in front of a class, what you would say to that 12-year-old, genuinely as an adult as you are now, knowing what you know about life. What would you say? It's okay to make mistakes. It's not who you are. You're gonna learn and grow from this. It's okay. Everyone messes up. Everyone does stuff. It's not the end of the world. You're far more than a speech. I love you anyway. You're beautiful. It's okay. You don't have to change anything about you. Let's just work on it next time. We'll practice. Like, you would just be loving and accepting. So she went and had that dialogue with that part of her. And it completely shifted. And she contacted me about 3 weeks later. She was still in the course. And she said, all excited. And I said, what? And she said, Jackie, I went on a date and it was terrible, but like, I didn't care because I just didn't have this dread going out. I've never, ever experienced that. I've never gone on a date so calm. And I just showed up and I was myself and I was calm and I was open and I was secure. And the date was terrible, but like, I could care less. And she was like, so happy because she felt the change in herself and she knew it had happened on that felt level. It was no longer there anymore. Does that mean it was fully healed? No, but she knew how to deal with it and work with it enough that it didn't hijack the dating experience. Up till now, she was like fighting that dreading feeling the whole time. So that's an example. It could be after the date you do this. It could be before the date. It could be on the date. You're like a wall, like there's a guard up and you got that painted smile on and you're smiling. Or it could be that like you're quiet and like you're basically shut down and you're looking at your watch under the table. Like, I can't wait to get out of here. Like but all of that means you're just not available. You're not present. You're not open for whatever good reason, but you're just not. Okay. So we want to be able to heal that. So this is what I teach you in my 9-week course, right? What are your subconscious blocks, how to heal your inner child, how to date from your higher self, masculine, feminine. Do you know how to date from your empowered feminine? Do you know how to trust in God? Do you really rely on God for your soulmate? Or as you just say, yeah, God, I want this, ching, ching, thank you so much. And then you go off and stress and worry as if it's your problem. Do you really know how to surrender, right? We talk about surrender, what that means, how to surrender, how to accept yourself, how to accept what God does for you. These are the things I teach you in my 9-week course. We do it through a series of different things. But the most important thing is that the 5 things that people need to date effectively are clarity, confidence, self-worth, self-trust, inner peace. The 5 things that people want the most from my course so they can show up and know that they're really open. And that's when often their soulmate walks in the door, right? We can't control it though. It's in God's hands and we don't know what's going on for him, but we can know that we showing up and being fully ready as we are, open, secure. I'm not standing in my way. That's our Hishtadlut, our effort. And we do this through 8 weeks of group calls with me live, just like this. They're usually a lot smaller. And we do it. We really look at the applied part of it, right? The applied part of what the tools are. I'm teaching you the tools on the online modules. There's online modules, 8 modules with lifetime access. It's a course I've created to teach you how to do these things, right? The inner child module is just one module. It's a big one, but it's a module. And I'm going to teach you how to do it with experiential exercises, with videos, PDFs, homework. And then we apply it on the group calls and you see me hot seat coach people on the call live. You hear other people's questions live and you go, oh, I didn't think of that. I want to know the answer to that. You learn from each other. It is not group therapy. We do not go around the room talking all about our problems. It's not helpful. We talk about how to apply the tools and we discuss what it looks like in application. And you see me coach people in application. It's really, really powerful. People usually tell me I'm not a group person. I don't like groups. And at the end of the course, they say it was the best, most powerful thing of the whole course, because you kind of experience the right brain, the subconscious application of it, that you experience it. I don't know how to describe it, except that you get it by a certain level of osmosis. Mindset sessions, you get your own personal coach. I have a team of amazing coaches that are all trained therapists. And they can also help you access the deeper subconscious level that we're talking about today. I'm very, very picky with who I take on my team. And these coaches will be allocated to you. You'll get one private coach for yourself and you can ask her any anytime about anything personal through the whole 9 weeks, as well as get 2 1-to-1 50-minute sessions with them where we really deep dive into the root of what's going on and help you shift. You can add in extra sessions if you would like to as well. So it's these one-on-one sessions, your own coach, the online course, which is the left brain, conscious mind, understanding everything, and the group calls, which applies everything. And this model of this structure I found actually to be more effective than just one-to-one coaching. I really was hesitant and did not believe it. It's a classic coaching model, this model. And I was really hesitant to do it. And I went and did it as a client in this model myself to see whether you could really make the impact and really teach people and for them to really get it. And I found it was very, very powerful to have all these elements together. So here, don't take my word for it. This is Sippy. She just got married to Justin. I actually happened to make the shidduch, which was miraculous, and God just kept putting it in my head. And she did the course, but she really attributed it all to the course. To be honest, she said, "You led me on this incredible journey of self-discovery, gave me the tools I needed to connect with my inner world and help me build self-trust I needed to begin living my life authentically." Typo, sorry. Dating before and after your course was completely different. I was more grounded, confident, oh my gosh, another typo, sorry. Trusting and vulnerable. Thank you for your guidance and for introducing me to my husband. I'm forever grateful. So Tsippy really, really worked on herself during this course. She completely transformed and she met her absolute soulmate, no question. This is Natalie. This course taught me to change all my negative beliefs I previously had about men and allow myself to receive the man of my dreams with open arms. He walked into her life in the middle of the course. It was unbelievable. Natalie R., the course enabled me to connect with my true self, be vulnerable, understand my needs, and allowed me to be open to receive my husband. My man walked back into my life a few months after the program. So she'd met him, dated him, said no, which means you can stand in your own way because she didn't recognize he was her husband at the time. She came and worked on herself deeply. And then he walked back into her life and she went, "What am I doing? Oh my gosh, this is the guy." But she didn't recognize because she was closed before, right? So she said, "I highly recommend this investment in yourself. And I'm forever grateful to Jackie for her support, guidance, and for teaching these concepts from a Torah perspective." So there's all sorts of shifts we need to do, right? And really, this is, if you want to get unstuck, if you want to date with clarity, feel worthy of an amazing guy, trust yourself more and listen to your own voice. Big one. If you want to take the pressure off, feel confident dating, and make sure you're truly open and available. You want to date with authenticity and vulnerability, then this kind of course is for you. This is for you because this is what I teach you, and people walk out with that. I've seen it hundreds of times at this point, and it is really powerful work. It happened for me. For those of you that know my story, I'm not going to go into it here, but this is the inner shift I had, and my husband also walked into my life. Literally, he was suggested the next day, which was crazy. So it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to have that experience. That's not true because there's a bigger picture going on. But it is the work we need to do this lifetime. It is the work that we need to do to get married easily. And it is the work I believe you need to do to get out of your own way if you're in your own way. So if you sign up for a call, introductory free discovery call with me or my team, you will get 10% off. And we will put a 10% discount code off webinar 10. And that's if you have to sign up in the next 4 days. You don't have to take the call in the next 4 days. This is a QR code. Hold up your phone with your camera. It'll lead you to a link. If you open your camera on your phone, if not, you can email us at info@jackieglazer.com and to sign up. And you'll get an email probably tomorrow from us as well. So you will get 10% off because you were on the webinar. You just tell us you were on the webinar. We will take 10% off. There's a number of different packages and ways. So we will go through all of those options with you on the call. But the goal is to help you shift. We really get clear on results and metrics. And we really make sure that you walk out with the results that you want. Really, that if you really walk out, like you get very clear on your KPIs, your key performance indicators. How will I know this course was successful for me? What will be different, right? We can't say I'll meet my husband because it's not in our control, but I will be different. How will I be different? How will I date different? What will I feel differently? Those are the things we're committed to, and we give a money back guarantee. So having said that, I am going to exit the slideshow. I'm going to stop sharing and take questions, comments, protests. Yes, our neshama chose our families. Is this concept similar to what is emotion? Emotion code. So emotion code operates from the same philosophy, but it's very, very different. Emotion code is more about kinesiology, muscle testing, but it operates from the same principle that the subconscious stores everything in the body. If you want to know a book, do I have it here? The Body Keeps the Score. The Body Keeps the Score is a book that is a very famous book. Can someone drop the link in the chat? Would be great, because that is a really great book that describes what I'm talking about. And someone says, what's the balance between feeling the feeling and not drowning in it? Brilliant. That is the difference between being in touch with your higher self. When you're in touch with your higher self, you can feel your feelings and not drown in it. If you're not in touch with your higher self, you're going to be in your feelings from the childlike perspective, and it will feel like it's drowning you, which is how we felt as a kid. And when we felt that as a kid, it was way too overwhelming. So we decided to push it back into the subconscious and say, I'm not doing that again. No way. I'm pushing it down. I'm going to escape. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to avoid that feeling because it is too threatening as a child. But now that you're bigger and older, you must connect to your adult or your higher self to be able to have that dialogue. It's the biggest mistake people make, because then you can even re-traumatize yourself if you're, have a trauma that you're dealing with. So we don't want you to do that. And you will not be doing that with me. That is for sure. So if you can't access your higher self, you shouldn't be going opening that up. Right. And it's really, really important, because when you connect with your higher self, you create a bigger vessel for the feelings to move through and up and out, and they'll leave you. They won't stick around. Can a person miss their share it? Oh, listen. Yes, they can. And then you get another chance, meaning there's not just one. There's different levels of soulmates. So like second marriages, third marriages, whatever, there are soulmates. There's different people that you can meet. I've even heard in the Kabbalah, there are up to 7. But it's not really, we don't need to worry about it, right? We don't need to worry about it. It's not for our business. So like, what are you going to do? Just now freak out and worry and then despair? Like, well, it doesn't help us to think that way. We will never know until we die in the next world. Like, it doesn't help us. So God's going to take care of you. Don't worry. You're all here on this webinar doing this work in Elul. You don't have to worry about it. You're working on yourself. There's a zivug for you. You can get married, right? And make it work. You just have to choose a good person that you're aligned with. This compatibility. Okay. If we are not focusing on the past and going straight to the root, how are we able to feel everything that comes up for us? If we are not focusing on the past and going straight to the root, how are we? Because feelings have layers. And so what happens is sometimes, it's interesting. Freud came up with the idea that we suppress our feelings, right? And that's like one of the biggest problems that we have is we suppress. So it was thought that the antidote to that, as Freud was developing all this, was that we should express our feelings. If you express your feelings, then that's going to be the antidote to suppressing our feelings, right? It makes sense, logical. So there was all these courses that were created, like, they would smash crash mats and stuff like that, those big foam mats, and people would scream into pillows. And there was a lot of this stuff about expression that happened. And they found that didn't work. That exacerbated the feeling more, actually. Why? Because you're giving this charge to the feeling, but it doesn't actually leave you. What you would do is you get rid of the energy charge that comes with it. Like you'll discharge some of the energy, but it wouldn't get rid of the root. So that person would still keep getting triggered with the anger, right? The anger wouldn't disappear or integrate necessarily. And so the answer really is to be able to observe it. So to allow the feeling, but have an observing level part of you that is also allowing for that feeling, but you're observing it. You're not just in the feeling, expressing it. So I can be in a feeling and express it, and I can allow a feeling and observe it. Two different things. And if you've done this, you'll know what I'm talking about. It feels completely different. It feels cleansing when you can observe and allow yourself to have the feeling versus when you're just in the feeling and you lash out, if that makes sense. That's why if someone gets angry and they actually express the anger, it doesn't make them feel better. It makes them feel like relieved a little bit in the moment, because they dispelled that energy, that electric charge, let's say. Crying could be different, because crying can be healing. It depends how you are thinking when you're crying, and it depends if you're turning your crying into suffering, and it depends if you're crying and turning it into despair and letting yourself go down a rabbit hole into kind of a depressed state. That is not healthy crying. That's going to exacerbate. So it depends what's happening also with the crying. But expression of feelings for the sake of expression on their own without that observer level is not necessarily healing in the same way, right? It's not necessarily, doesn't mean you should suppress. The answer is not to suppress. The answer is to be aware and create a bigger observer part of you that can allow it to move through you, right? Up and out, and acknowledging it and validating it. and accepting it. And when you accept the feeling, right? If I stop and accept the feeling and say, okay, right now I'm feeling really angry. Right now I'm feeling really angry, and that's okay. And I really validate, I feel the anger pulsing through my body. I am describing the sensations. Do you see how that's different to I'm angry? Yeah, right. If I just go, I'm angry, and lash out from the anger, versus if I'm actually acknowledging the anger, describing the anger, allowing it to be there, say, whoa, I feel really angry right now, but I'm owning it and I'm with it. I'm present with it. I'm connected to it. It's very different. It will shift. It will shift that way. It will not shift the other way. So, okay. And so same thing with any emotion. You can still cry. You can still feel fear. If you do this with fear, it's amazing what happens with anxiety and anxiety disorders. If you can do this, it's harder to do with anxiety disorders. How do we know what amount of nervousness before a date is normal? It shouldn't hijack your date. Nervousness can be there, but it's like, have you ever felt nerves before a roller coaster? Nervousness before a roller coaster is excitement, right? You feel nerves, you feel scared, but you don't feel threatened. You don't feel at risk. You don't feel like you're going to be so wounded in any way. It's not scary like it overtakes you, or you can't control it, or it's going to like totally affect how you show up. It should not be so strong, the nerves before a date, that it's going to change how you are on the date completely. You know, okay, you're a little bit jittery. Okay, fine. But it shouldn't be a threat. Some people experience it as a threat because why? It's coming from their inner child. And this is how you know something's coming from your inner child. This is exactly how you know. Fantastic question. It's because when the level of emotion or charge is greater than the situation calls for. Going on a date is not a life-threatening situation, right? Believe it or not. Even if it's a terrible date, it's not life-threatening. Going on a date can be annoying at best, at worst, right? Annoying. It could be depressing, maybe, but it's not threatening. It's not like I'm going to be hurt. I'm going to feel devastated because I'm going to feel rejected again. If I'm propelled into despair, I'm doing something wrong, right? A date should not be despairing. So the level of charge is your clue. Always, by the way, not just with dating, with anything, your level of charge, a level of emotional charge is the way we tell. Like, let's say I told a story that was a true story where someone was left off an email list and at work, and not an email list. There was an important memo that went out, and the boss put out the memo, and this girl had grown up in a family with a lot of siblings, and she was often felt left out. That was her thing. She often felt left out. She often felt invisible. That's how she loving family. Everyone loved each other, but she just felt a little bit shuffled around. Like she was like kind of a middle child syndrome, right? She goes to work. She has a great job, great career. And something happened where, you know, she thought maybe the boss doesn't, you know, believe in me as much as I'd like him to, but, you know, he's nice and civil and whatever. And this one time the boss left her off an email and didn't include her in whatever, some important thing. She flipped out. She felt devastated. She was raging. She's like, how could you do this to me? I feel so betrayed. You always do. You don't even care about me to put me on the email. How could you do this to me? You never really valued my work, right? And all this stuff came out, and the guy's like, I'm sorry, I left you off the email. It was a mistake. Like, so you see the level of the charge was similar enough that it reminded her subconsciously of her childhood, and it came vomiting up on the poor boss. And the boss is like, whoa, I really wasn't intentional. I think you're great. Like, you know, and that's how we know, because this happens to us all day long. All day long, we get our big inner child buttons in the subconscious pushed because we are getting triggered in our current situation. There's something about the situation that's similar enough to something that my subconscious reminds me of, right? It reminds me of that thing. And that, guess why it comes up? It comes up for you, and it's being triggered by you, so you can see it and you have a chance to integrate it and heal it. That's why it comes up. Hashem's brilliant. He creates circumstances exactly what we need to trigger us so that it comes up and we get the chance to integrate it. And we get a chance to do that, or we beat ourselves up and we keep pushing it down, or we keep ignoring it, and then we keep getting chance after chance after chance. It's much easier to integrate it, to be honest. Save much more energy. Okay. What if you're still not able to access your subconscious, even with all the proper tools? I would want to work with you one-to-one, because I've not really experienced that. Even people who are blocked, then we talk to the block. Whatever's coming up for you, we talk to the block. So if the subconscious is blocking you, then we talk to that block, right? But sometimes it can take a few times, and it can take you being open to yourself at the body level for your body and subconscious to trust you to open up. So the reason you can't access it is because somehow your subconscious doesn't really trust you. You've been ignoring it and pushing it away and talking to it negatively, like dismissing yourself for so long, it doesn't want to open up. So you have to build some trust there, but you can. The only other time it would get in the way is if you have like some active trauma that's not treated, or depression or anxiety or a mental health issue that's getting in the way, it's masking it. And then it's very hard to access because you're dealing with that. So you have to deal with that first, make sure you have the right, treatment, and then go back to the work. Oh, thank you, Christine. Body keeps a score. How do you connect to your higher self? Can you give an example? Yes, the best way to connect to your higher self is to go into observer mode. So if you just notice right now that you're breathing, so just you're breathing at your own pace. Don't change how you're breathing. Just notice that you're breathing. So there's part of you that you can even shut your eyes for a minute. There's part of you that is breathing. And as you're breathing, if I asked you to count your breath, there would be another part of you in the top of your mind observing the breath, and could also simultaneously count your breath as your body is breathing at its own natural pace. And as you do that, you can even relax a little bit more and a little bit more. That you can notice that there's these two levels of awareness. There's the body doing its thing, breathing. And there's another level that becomes aware of the breathing or pays attention to the breathing. It's just watching the breath. It could count the breath or not, but it's watching it. That part of you that's watching and observing is your higher self. It's always there in the backdrop. It's always there observing. And what we call that is dual awareness, two levels of awareness, dual awareness. When you get into dual awareness and you practice it enough, you can live in that space. You can live it with dual awareness, where anytime you want to just notice what's going on, you can observe what's going on at the same time as feel what's going on. It's just practice. Everyone can do it. That once you have access to the observer in you, you're free. Even if you get triggered and fall off, you can come back, right? So I do a whole more complicated visualization that gets you into that higher self mode in a more tangible way, but that's the essence of it, is observing. Is God involved in the process of connecting to the higher self? No. I mean, God's involved in everything, but I want to make a distinction here, because again, your higher self is your soul. Your soul is intrinsically part of God, of course, but we need to connect here first to become our whole self, or our open self, or a vessel to then connect with God in a stronger way. So that's why people would come out of the course going, oh my gosh, my prayers got better. Like everything got better after this course, because how I do one thing is how I do everything. So the more I show up in myself, with myself understanding my lower self, my higher self, and awareness of God, the more I can do that, I'm coming from a much more expanded version of myself. And so therefore I can connect to God in a much deeper way. All my prayers, everything, whatever I'm doing is deeper, is more present, is more connected, feels amazing. So it's really like we want to connect with our full self first to be the best partner we can be with God, if that makes sense. But again, I just think the Jewish world jumps over this. There's not a lot of focus on this. And it's a mistake, because it limits your connection. It limits your relationships, right? It's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the story. We want to start with connected, and then I want to be able to connect to others, and I want to be able to connect to God with as much as I can. Okay. Why is it hard to identify the feeling in your body that you mentioned? So it can be hard to identify the body, the feelings in the body, if you live in your head. I was one of those. I used to call myself a head on a stick, where I literally lived in my head all the time, and I had zero feelings, literally in my early 20s, probably as a result of my father's death when I was 17. I do not want to feel that. Thank you very much. I'm going to push it down, swallow it. I'm good. Thanks very much. I'm fine. Everything's great all the time. I don't really feel anything, so everything's wonderful. The problem with that is you don't get to experience joy. You don't get to experience joy and connection. And guess what? Bonding and dating, all of that is limited if you don't allow yourself to feel the pain you won't be able to feel the joy. So you want that, you can't, unfortunately, you can't turn it on, like on and off in the pain and on with the joy. It doesn't work that way. So the more you connect with yourself and allow yourself, at least again, an opening, an interest, a curiosity. I want to know what's going on. How do I feel about that? Is there anything going on in my body? Even that intention will start to, your body will start to respond to you over time, over a short period of time, not a long period of time, right? It will respond in a short time. If you start saying, what do I feel? Right? What do I feel like eating? Intuitive eating, right? You say, I'm hungry. So your mind thinks of what to eat. But if you stop and actually ask your stomach what it wants to eat, what do you feel like eating? And you think of something to eat and your body's like, your stomach's like, so then that's a no. So, but if you think of a different food, like a soup or something healthy, your body might be like, like kind of like feels yummy. I don't know how to describe it. It's a sense, it's just a sense of yumminess. That is your body speaking to you, or it could be a sensation is very subtle. It's not a whole blown up feeling. It's the fact that sometimes I feel butterflies in my stomach, or sometimes I just feel like a tension in my sternum, or sometimes I just feel like a sinking feeling, or a knot in my stomach, or I feel in my heart. It's like some people feel everything in their heart. So it depends. It can be a sensation, not just a feeling. And the more you stick with your presence and your awareness with the sensation and be curious about it and keep checking in with it, the more it will grow and grow and grow into more other feelings and other sensations very quickly. Someone I'm working with now, she couldn't feel anything at all ever. And now she's 2 months down the track and she's blown away. It's like someone gave her those colored, those colorblind eyeglasses where someone's colorblind and you give them the glasses and they suddenly see the world in color. She's literally like that though, with her feelings. She's like, is this how everyone lives? And I said, yes. Well, people who are connected. She literally can't believe it, right? This is a client of mine for 2 months because she's been just working on it for 2 months and she now feels joy and everything. She never felt this before in her life, right? And she's super, super successful and busy. Okay, she keeps busy to stay away from the feelings and now she stopped doing that. Okay, I'll take like 2 more. They keep going. I could stay here all night, but I want anyone who needs to leave, please leave. It was an honor speaking to you tonight. I will just do an official close. And if it is such a powerful time of the year, Elul, which is the right before Rosh Hashanah, we're 2 weeks, can you believe it, before Rosh Hashanah? And how you walk into Rosh Hashanah determines your whole year. It really does. People don't realize the power, spiritual power of that day, as of those 2 days, Rosh Hashanah. How you walk in internally in a deep way in your spiritual state is what God looks inside each one of us and assesses what we need for the year, including your husband or not your husband, or what other tests or opportunities you have. And you want to do whatever work you can do this Elul to show up differently and say, okay, I'm ready. I'm open. I'm ready to receive Hashem, rather than go in closed and bitter and negative and depressed, which is what I did for many years. So no judgment, because I did this for many years, but I'm just teaching you what I learned. Don't do that. In fact, the year I met my husband was the time I went in the most accepting and the most kind of not nonchalant, but the most like, okay, rather than intense and feeling desperate and feeling, don't go in feeling depressed. Don't go in feeling dark. Say, okay, Hashem, here we are again. I'm willing to do whatever you want. I accept whatever you decide. You're in charge. Let go, let God, surrender. And you know that I want to meet my husband this year. And I know that you love me and I accept whatever you give me, right? If you can just say whatever you want, Hashem, and be in a place of surrender on Rosh Hashanah, it's the best place for you to be. And you daven for everyone who's single to find their partner. You want to connect yourself to the cloud, to the collective. You don't want to fall back into just me. You want to always say, and everyone else who's also needs to get married. And you want to connect yourself because the cloud is very big. And there's an idea of not singling yourself out. Like, okay, you are a little small. You're very small. We want to connect to the collective. But the best thing to do is to go in a positive mindset and say, Hashem, I'm doing everything I can. And this is the kind of work that I think people need to do. So you don't have to do it with me, but if you do it with me, I'm happy to do it with you. And it's great to be able to at least sign on to do something before Rosh Hashanah. So yeah, if you need to leave, please leave. I'm going to answer some more questions. How do you know if you made the right decision when ending a relationship? Listen, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know your deal breakers. You have to know if you gave it enough time. You have to know whether you both allowed yourself to be real and vulnerable. There's a lot of questions I would ask you if I was working with you. It's not just enough to say this or that. You have to know, well, was I being open? Was I being authentic? Was he being authentic? And did I really see the person in front of me? Trusting yourself is also about being in tune. The more in tune with yourself you are on that body level, on those feelings level, the more you'll trust yourself, because you cannot trust yourself if it's all from the head. Again, it's the biggest mistake we make, is that when we analyze and we just think over and over in our head, right? The head can argue everything from every which angle. That's the head's strength, the pros and the cons of every angle. And then you just end up being totally confused. The head on its own cannot make the decision. The head must make it in conjunction with the heart and the gut. And you need to be able to be in tune with your heart and gut to be able to do that, which is very, very easy and possible, but you need to be able to be willing to feel. And no one else can tell you how you feel, because no one else is inside that connection, that relationship with that person. So you become more confident with your decisions by getting to know yourself, which is, again, what I teach you in the course. Self-trust is one of the top 5. I teach you that in the course, to be in tune with yourself, to listen to yourself, to validate yourself. It's really, really important. If you can't stop thinking of someone and feel like they would be the perfect partner, but can't go out with them. Yeah. So you have to accept the fact that, I don't know why you can't go out with them, but you have to accept that this is not your partner, and there's someone even better out there that you are blocking because you're so attached to this person. So I would say cut contact completely. Do not have any contact whatsoever, and stop following on social media if you're on social media or anything like that, and really mourn it and let it go. The yearning for that perfect partner is healthy, but obviously this person is not for you. So it's about acceptance of what is. How do you overcome the anxiety to always have something to say on the date, like that fear of awkward silence? The way I dealt with that was being real about it. So talking about the awkward silence, right? Like bringing it up as a humorous thing. Like, don't you just hate that awkward silence? Like, I literally dread it. And if you bring that up with someone, they're going to just smirk and laugh, and you make a joke of it. And then once you've acknowledged it, it has no power. So things like that only have power if you have an expectation or of like, oh my gosh, it's got to be like this, and I'm like this. And there's a gap between what you expect it to be and what you are. And that gap is like the level of your suffering, always with everything, by the way, right? The level of your expectation is here, the reality is here, and the difference is your level of suffering. You can remove the expectation and just say, and you could also say, however it is, it is. I wonder what he's going to do if it's silent. I'm just going to sit here happily smiling and see if he jumps in. That's also a good way to test it out, right? Although if he doesn't, you could rescue him. So another good thing, if you really want to know, is to come with a few topics, a story or two, or a topic or two, or a question or two that you've thought about beforehand for those moments, right? Oh yeah, I was just wanting to know what you thought about blah, blah, blah. You just jump in, you just have it prepared in your head. That's a practical way of dealing with it. Okay. What's the difference between the course and the one-on-one therapy with you? I don't do one-on-one therapy. I generally don't do one-off sessions for coaching, because one-off sessions are just advice. And I'm really committed to people's transformation, because I think that's really the problem and the struggle and the challenge. Advice I give you for free. Instagram me, put a question in the Q&A box. I give advice for free. But I really like to work with people in transformation. So the course has one-to-one coaching, and it has a personal coach for questions, and it has group calls with me live where you see it all in action. And then it has the modules online. So it's all those elements, like I said before. Okay. Inner self-meditation. Inner self-meditation is a Jewish concept. Go and read Aryeh Kaplan, the Jewish meditation. I mean, there's books and books on it. Yes, self-meditation is absolutely a Jewish practice, and it was lost after the Enlightenment, but it is absolutely a Jewish practice. There's no question. Rav Aryeh Kaplan was famous for it, for bringing it down into levels that we can understand. There's a little book called Jewish Meditation that's probably the most famous and easiest to read, and he did a whole lot of other books as well. Talk therapy exercises. I'm not sure what that means. I know Rav Shlomo Wolbe is very famous for personal growth and Musar in Torah, had his yeshiva bochrim walk around talking from their neshama to their guf and having that dialogue. So that's the basis of what we go on. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of frum psychologists who are very approved by Rabbanim who all use this stuff. So there's a lot of frum therapists, psychologists that are frum, that have post-skim for people in the Jewish world. I'm happy to talk to you about it later. During with therapists that are similar to your methods. No, I don't have recommendations for therapists that are similar, because I haven't found so many, which is why I started the course, because I wanted to scale it so a lot of people could learn it, because I didn't find many people in America actually work this way. A lot of therapists in America work at the conscious mind level. There are some therapists and modalities that do hypnosis, somatic experiencing, IFS. They're all fantastic approaches. I would definitely go with a therapist that has one of those modalities first, because they work with the body as well, right? And they work with the different parts in us. But so yeah. Okay, I'm glad it was super helpful. Yeah, the level of surrendering past Rosh Hashanah. Well, that's a different test, right? Surrender. It's a constant practice in avoda, how to surrender past Rosh Hashanah. If you can do it on Rosh Hashanah, you're doing really, really well. Surrender means that whatever comes up, I just accept it and surrender it. Like I don't have to react from it or to it, as well. And I can accept Hashem's decisions. How do I get past losing interest in those initial online communications, responding, looking, matching? You have to vet. You have to be very discerning. You have to be discerning and know what you're looking for and not engage with everyone just in case. That is exhausting. It's exhausting. So don't do it. Be discerning, know what you're looking for, and only engage with people that you think are in the ballpark. Okay. I do make matches. I started making matches, but not mainly for the clients that I work with because I get to know them well. And I realized I probably should get into it a little bit more because I'm starting to meet so many people, but it's hard. It's like a full-time job on the side, on top of it. But I really do want to do more of it. What's the balance between surrender and hishtadlus? Hishtadlus is something we must do to put in our effort, but you can still always surrender the outcome to God. So the effort is what we put in, and then we surrender the outcome to Hashem. So if you want to ask, well, how much hishtadlus effort is the right amount of effort? My Rav Kellerman in Israel once said, you put in the same amount of effort as any good atheist would. So whatever good atheist is dating, whatever they're doing for dating to put in effort, that's the same effort we should do. It's just that we surrender the outcome to God afterwards. It's a very simple, powerful idea. So okay, guys, I'm really happy to be here. And a lot of you have stayed on till the end. I know we will grab, Christine will grab whoever's on, and we will send you a bonus of actual prompts of how to what to do and how to talk to your inner child. And yeah, it's been an honor. I hope you all have a wonderful, sweet, revealed goodness this year, and Rosh Hashanah and Shana Tova and Watsuka. Thank you. And we'll be in touch, and I hope to help a lot of you in shifting this inner part if it's standing in your way. So please be in touch if this speaks to you, if you feel like you benefit from this work. And yeah, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, guys. Good night. Have a good night.